Welcome to the Week in Italian Startup, where we discuss the latest highlights happening in the Italian tech and investment ecosystem. Okay, welcome back to the first episode of 2024 of the Week in Italian Startup. How are you, Nick?
Ciao, Jack. I'm great. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, no, that's looking forward for the new year and the closing of the 2023. We've seen a few last deal at the very end of the year. And we're start actually seeing a few deals at the beginning of this year. So that's pretty good. All right. So without further ado, let's start maybe with the biggest round of last week. Actually, the only one that is definitely interesting to talk about is Resalis Therapeutics. Biotech startup announced a 10 million round led by Sunstone Life Science Venture with the participation from existing investors such as Claris Venture and previous investors as well. So biopharma seems to always have like a big beginning actually. Every year we see like big deals, even like the small deal in biopharma looks like the big deal in tech in general. So it's endemic of the system. Is interesting. Maybe let's talk really quick what Resalis is doing. So Resalis is working on non-coding RNA therapy, specifically referred to obesity and fatty liver disease. So again, we're not giving we're not expert in biotech, but what is interesting is that they are working on specific application and treatments related to RNA. And from what I've been reading, essentially, that is the kind of RNA that doesn't synthesize proteins. So we have a bunch of different kinds of RNA. And that one in particular is the one that regulates the genetic expression in the cellular activities. So that's the idea on a very overview. So interesting take, interesting angle. From the investment standpoint, what is interesting is that the size of the round is very consistent, as we were saying, and it's a good start of the year, I would say.
Yeah, well, 10 million round is a good start, I would say, even though it was the only one. But the first week of January, everybody's on vacation in Italy, so I wasn't expecting this at all. So that was very good. And the other interesting point is that the lead investor is a fund from Copenhagen, originally, specialized in life sciences. And as you said, life science is a strong sector in Italy. We have a history, we have a very good background locally with these startups. So I'm not surprised that one of the first deals is in that market. I was thinking, Jack, this is an obesity type of antagonist of drug or whatever. It reminds me of the first last year with the Ozempic drug from the US. I was wondering whether the antagonist is the same. And I was looking
Yeah,
right now live, but it would be
I'm
interesting
not
if we
sure. Yeah, not sure about it. Not sure
GLP-1.
about it.
Yeah,
It is
it is.
interesting.
It
These
is
guys, they
against
like the January
this
deal.
the
They,
same
they
the
like
same
to be the
receptor.
first.
So I just realized it was talking about the same receptor, GLP-1 receptor of the drug. So we're looking
Interesting.
at something that works along the lines of Ozempic. Interesting.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. Okay. So something is happening there. Is that a pattern? That's always the question. I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Definitely, there is
Oh,
something underlying that kind of way of approaching the problem. Actually, in terms of therapy.
hmm.
Interesting. All right, moving quickly, actually. Starting, basically, let's go back maybe to end of the year / really beginning of the year, talking about like a Vitesy, a green tech startup raising 3.2 million from Doorway and Business Angel in a crowdfunding round. Vitesy has been working on different products from air purification onward with a very, very peculiar technology in particular. They've been active since 2016, and essentially they've been raising up to 10 million up to today. So over the years, the guys they've really like worked really well and really hard on product. The product that they marketed is called Shelfie, and the idea is to fight food waste through different air filtration technology with a product that actually you install in the fridge, and then it kind of lengthen the life of foods, and that's the idea. Very interesting take, a very real and everyday problem. And the guys, I think they have like spotless marketing and great execution in terms of product. So shout out to Paolo Ganis and the team for this achievement. So good job. Difficult one, I think, is pretty challenging and difficult one. So a product for clean tech, for retail and consumer, that's definitely not easy, not a simple sale. So really, really good job on that. What's
Yeah,
your take
they.
on that?
Well, I agree with you. So, consumer technology in the green tech for the home. So they started out with air purifier plant container. So then another type of air purifier. So they follow the specific market for consumers, and that's hard. I think it's remarkable that they've been able to continue operating and pushing new products on the market for these years, for quite some time. I think they mastered the crowdfunding platform strategy, both in raising capital, doorway, both in placing the products on the market. So I think they did they made quite a few campaigns on Kickstarter and the other platforms. So they managed to put the products on market by leveraging all the new distribution technology that they were around at each single time. So very very good for them. Very nice.
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
see
it's
how
a it's
this
a
the new product works.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a great successful case study for actually, as you say, like using crowdfunding for like a double, ending, which is fundraising, but also like a product placement. So that's great.
Mm.
And by the way, if Paolo is listening, I need to tell him that I've been receiving like video ads from Vitesy on my YouTube feed. So awesome targeting. I think it's working. And yeah, good ad, definitely a very, very nice ad. So very cool. All right, let's move to edutech in general in Italy. Algor Education, AI startup raising 1.4 million from Emerge Education, Club degli Investitori, 40 Gems Ventures, and Gustaf Nordbäck. Okay, maybe we should pause for a second and again, like let the wave of AI sink in, even in edutech. Well, not even. It's one of the great application, probably one of the greatest application. And these guys have been at it for about a couple of years, I would say. Algor Education basically is making a platform that allow essentially to upload the text, images and audio, and essentially the AI would produce a conceptual map, a so-called mind map of the text in a way that people can learn extremely quickly, extremely easy. So for years, mind map has been like the sacred graal of quick learning and speed learning and whatnot. Very, very old idea, but marketed a lot, I would say, in the 90s. That's when the mind map started really picking up. Kind of disappeared a bit, but I think now is again on top. And especially with AI, I mean, imagine what that can do. So very interesting, very very interesting vision actually. If you can feed any material that you want to learn, and then get a very digestible piece of information that at least allows you to orient your knowledge. I mean, not necessarily go deep, because that's a different kind of brain process, but at least orienting is extremely powerful. So kudos to them. Very good angle. I know Unique also know them, so that's a good job on them for sure.
Yeah, they're the classical strong young team, well versed in technology and AI that found a niche to start from. I think, and I'm mostly for research purposes. So, the curiosity of applying a technology and doing something. Let's see whether we can create mind maps. Then finding a problem and then growing out of the niche with that problem. Uh, that I think was people with um, learning problems, and then finding a product that the market needs and wants. Looking at the numbers that they have, it seems that they're doing great. Um, so that's very, very nice to see. And I think that the additional bit to talk about is about investors. So um, Emerge is a UK based fund. So once again, having a foreign investor acting as a lead in a seed round, so very early stage in an Italian startup is a very good signal. The market is picking up. We have a good offering, and we can be a country where foreign investors can find good targets to invest.
I agree. I agree. And Emerge has been very active in pre-seed projects in education. I think their strategy is to allocate 250K up to 1.5 million in pre-seed. They have a portfolio of around like 20ish sort of like companies, which really goes across the border, literally from better managing university onboarding up to creating video from text for learning purposes. So they're really touching a lot of the great part of education. And what is exciting, I think, in this area is the fact that the vision is very compelling, which is one day everybody will have a personalized AI based on their educational needs. So no more I don't like the teacher cannot teach me the way I learn, and AI can actually help on that front, and that's probably going to be one of the big waves in the next 5 to 10 years for sure. So like AI tutoring of some sort, that's extremely powerful. I think
Wow, fascinating.
it's a trip. It's a
Mm.
trip. But let me be controversial for a second, actually. As you know, Nick, building mind maps, the value of building mind maps is the building part of itself, right? So when you build a map, that's how you learn. So my question, and I would love to speak with the guys, be like, okay, now you're taking away, well, not taking away, but simplifying that process. So how is that going to work? Because I can see the value in sort of the overview of a topic, but actually the process of crunching information and re-elaborating and assessing and critically discerning, it's kind of modulated a little bit. So I don't know. I'm curious on how exactly that's gonna work. Yeah.
That's a fair question. I mean, in the old ways, you had to read the text in order to build the mind map. Um, I don't know. I think that there will be a point where you will do would be nice to do a compared study of proficiency between people who uses an automatic tool to do the mind map and students who actually build their own, and see whether there is any real difference among the two groups. That would be nice, interesting. I don't know.
Interesting. Interesting.
So this means we're going deeper into the way we learn,
Hmm.
and that's another interesting rabbit hole, I would say.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I can sort of see their point, especially when it comes to engaging people quicker instead of seeing a text and being depressed. You actually watch a one-page mind map, which is colorful and engaging. That's more attractive, right? So you kind of are more willing to get immediately engaged with the content. Like the book sometimes can be like scary for students, so that's a nice way to actually ease into the material. So there might be some value there. I mean, I'm sure that I'm certain there is value there. So that's pretty cool. So a little challenge there to sort of deep dive maybe later on. All right. Moving on. So, Nick, I'll pause for a second and actually give some shout out to people in Turin because Milan has been always the center of the startup land in Italy. So now finally we have also great operator. Well, we have had a few good operator in Turin, of course, in the past years, but since they make the news right now, let's mention them. So first of all, Excellis Investment Holding announcing its second capital increase, managed by Loris, Lancellotti, and Alberto and Prim. So that's interesting because they have a very cool view. Basically, they are investing in Italian founders, essentially funding international startups. So the research part come from Italians, but the company should be like preferably outside Italy, and that's their focus. So Italian researcher abroad funding startups. That's their angle. Very unique, very powerful. Um those are the people that you exclude in your fundraise metric, right, Nick?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as always, it's a hard choice, but you either keep track of the let me call it GDP, so the Italian startups starting from Italy, whoever launched them, or the startups funded by Italians, the
Mhm.
GNP, let's call it that way,
Mhm.
gross national products, gross national startups. I don't know. I am under the impression that the startups funded by Italians would be would bring to a higher number, quite a bit higher than the startups funded in Italy. But I mean, that was the my choice at the very beginning.
Oh, for
So
sure, for sure.
startups launched in Italy, and I stick to that. But it would be nice to track also the other number. I think we would be surprised by the quantity of great startups with Italian founders abroad that are not touching Italy at all.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. One interesting element that they underline is the fact that they really work well in the UK and Switzerland and UK in particular. And what they were mentioning is that essentially straight out of university, like any spin out, any university spin out is generally valued 13 times more than any Italian spin out of university. That applies in the UK. So I don't know. I don't know anything about the data supporting this position, but it's maybe a metric to think about. So what's happening with the Italian spin out? Maybe that's kind of a signal that we can consider to actually reflect on this because maybe UK has a better and more fluid way to move spin out from university into real business and actually monetizable business. Maybe Italy is still lacking that quick entry to the market. Maybe they've been doing it like for longer, like in the US, where the ties between universities, tech, and market is very tight, and that's probably one of the factor actually that can help valuations in general. So speeding up the process of converting researchers into entrepreneurs in a way. That's definitely like one. Like a signal that sometimes comes up, but we forget about it. Actually, is like pretty substantial. 13
Mhm.
times. That's a lot.
That's huge, an order of magnitude more. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I think we have some in Italy. We have still some issues or obstacles to overcome before becoming a country where there is a good technology transfer from
Hmm.
research to the market. Maybe in some verticals is working more better, life sciences,
I
but
agree.
in other areas, in other technology areas, we are still lagging behind in terms of for sure and numbers results. But
Good point.
I don't know. So I don't have a good view of all the problems or opportunities that lie in the university and the research world in Italy. That could be a nice argument, nice topic for another conversation.
Awesome. Second shout out to some people from Turin. IH1 investment holding of Mamazen reached 5 million in capital raised. So awesome job, Farad and Alessandro, in making this model work. So essentially, Mamazen is a startup studio. And IH1 is actually their entity, which is separate from the studio that invest in a successful project coming out of the studio. So the model of the studio is a very interesting model, very different, that has been working in the Anglo-Saxon countries. Italy has been trying to replicate this model in different elements, in different ways. And Mamazen definitely is like one of the studios that have been working really, really hard in making this work. And now they've been like testing this so-called dual entity model, where the investment part is separated from the studio. Many times that's not the case. So what is interesting is that the funding holding funds all the startups, but that's not necessarily the case. I'm oversimplifying here, of course. But their choice is really to have this separation in a way that is more like an outside investor, and that's powerful. That's probably powerful, and that's probably the model that can actually bring a lot of good results, independently of the companies that the studio can develop that might work or not, and trying to avoid as much bias as possible when it comes to investment. So that's powerful for sure. All right. So, Nick, any addition maybe?
I think it's worth mentioning that at the very end of the year, YAKKYO went public with a direct listing on the Euronext growth market professional segment. So interesting move there. Uh, as the startup was launched by, I think, Innova Venture quite a few years ago. Um, so it's an interesting move. They listed on the 29th of December, something like that. So I think we had not a lackluster here in terms of M&A and IPOs, but something has happened, and this is one of the operations that I think it's worth mentioning.
Awesome. And you mentioned also, I don't know if you have it handy, the numbers of IPO in 2023. I think it was around like 30-ish or so,
Yeah,
roughly.
there were quite a few, 34,
Yeah.
more than I expected on the Euronext
Mhm.
growth. So the junior market of Euronext. Um, so quite fewer than the year before, but it's still 34. And it is interesting that 34 in Italy and 65 overall on all the European markets managed by Euronext. So apparently, we have more Italian companies keen to list on the junior market than in the rest of Europe. But uh, there are some market dynamics over there that I don't know right now. So not big numbers. A year
Yeah.
before were quite higher. I think two
Hmm.
times, three times higher. So.
Interesting.
And I think that finally it is worth mentioning the Milan International VC Hub by the Italian Agency for Growth folks. So they created this office where any VC from anywhere outside of Italy can find a place to sit and work and mingle. Uh, so I mean, international VCs, you're welcome to Milan. You have a space where you can sit down and meet people.
It's a good
Nice,
idea.
nice
So
initiative. Nice initiative. Exists
It's
until
a
now.
nice initiative, exactly. They're very open. It's a very beautiful location, actually, I think. And so, yeah, for international VC coming to Italy, they have, well, it's a good way, Come, you have a warm room, a table, Wi Fi, and an espresso, and then you're good to go, essentially, to explore the ecosystem.
Yeah,
All
because
right.
at the end of the day, we don't have a place like the one in Paris, um, what's called the big location in France. So we are missing this, aggregation center. So
Mhm.
it's nice to have this type of opportunity.
No, for
But
sure,
yeah,
for sure. All right, Nick, thank you so much for joining today. And this concludes this week's episode of the Week in Italian Startup. So remember to subscribe to our channel for more exciting news and, of course, to Nick's newsletter. And Nick, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next week.
Jack, thank you for hosting. Ciao, everybody. See you in a week.